so powerful is everything you do, who's in this room, and I don't care what industry you're in, I don't care what kind you are from the IT, 70% of most of the contracts are from IT. So Chichadora, where are you? You need to be here. But then they also have everything that you do, you don't need to be the actual person doing it. That is what this whole panel's about. You're just the front person, okay? And we all know how to do everything they're going to talk about. You just need to do it. So I'm very honored to introduce Deborah, who's going to be from the NCUA. This is the first time they've been out to our conference. So I'm excited to have her here, even though I've known them for years, but that's okay. The National Credit Union Association, but I'm going to have her introduce the panel, and she is going to be your moderator, so I'm off the stage. Thank you.
I think we got it. Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Oh, fantastic. We just wanted to make sure you were still out there. We hope we can create engagement for you today. As Desiree mentioned, our topic is OMWI and procuring contracts. And again, as Sharron affectionately referred to as OMWI, it's the Office of Minority and Women Inclusion. However, I will be delighted to share we're not just going to speak from a federal level, we'll also have a member of our panel who's part of the city of Chicago. So there's a local flair to inviting and sharing with you both a little bit more about who we are and what we do and how to effectively secure contracts with us. And we'll also caution you, some of us, and I think I might be one of those, may be limited in terms of the procurement available in the real estate area. But in addition to just kind of sharing those opportunities we have in contracting, we hope to provide you with a little bit of just, I think, our own personal suggestions as to how to support the community in the Year of Women when it comes to sustaining and growing your businesses. So we thought we'd take a informal, I should say, format of briefly introducing ourselves, telling you again a little bit about our organizations, and then we'll begin to do a little bit of a round robin, again, sharing more with you about the opportunities to contract with us. Does that sound okay? As you can tell, we're going to ask you questions so we can make sure you're still alert and out there. Again, I'll start with myself. I am Deborah Baldwin. I am the Deputy Director of the Office of Minority and Women Inclusion with the National Credit Union Administration. Our role at the NCUA is to really support the credit union industry. We supervise, we regulate, and also provide the insurance share form fund. You'll hear more from Victor, so we do what Victor does, but we do it for the credit unions, which is actually to create a sound and safe credit union system. The NCUA is centrally based in Alexandria, Virginia, but we have what we call regional offices throughout the U.S., and we also have an office that might be of interest to you, limited opportunities, but I will share a little bit more later about our Asset Management Assistance Center. It's based in Austin, Texas, and this is the center that really supports us in managing the liquidation of failed credit unions. The good news is we're getting fewer and fewer failed credit unions, so that's the good news, but they would assist us in supporting the recovery of assets and managing the liquidation. So again, we'll share more about that as we go along in our topic discussion. But let me allow my fellow panelists to introduce themselves as well. Mark?
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Mark Hans, and I'm the Supplier Diversity Program Manager for the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, we're one of 12 banks across the country, and we are a lot of people think of, what does the Federal Reserve do? We're the bank's bank, so it's not like you can come up to us and get an individual loan. We provide funds to the banks across the country. And one of the things you'll find is that there are, as I mentioned, there are 12 banks. The Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, our district, we're the 7th district. We're located in central to lower Wisconsin, Iowa, central to upper Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. Our headquarters are here in Chicago, where we have about 1,500 employees, and we have a large branch in Detroit. We have a supervision and regulation office in Des Moines, Iowa, and a business continuity office in Lombard, Illinois. One of the things, the Federal Reserve, we really are responsible for three things. We set monetary policy, that's the increasing or lowering of your interest rates. We supervise and regulate the banks, and we ensure that the payment system is safe and sound. As Sharron from where is she from the
FHFA.
Yes, thank you. She mentioned we don't spend a lot of money. A lot of people think, oh, you're the federal government. No, we're not a federal agency. We're not federal employees, and we don't spend a lot of money. Our spend is roughly somewhere between $55 and $65 million a year.
Thanks, Mark. Hi, Victor.
I'm Vic Christiansen. I'm with the FDIC out of Arlington, Virginia. We have our headquarters in Washington, D.C. Vic Christiansen with FDIC. Our headquarters is in Washington. We have several regional offices. I work particularly in Arlington, Virginia, where we have most of our employees. We have our regional office here. We have about 6,000 employees nationwide. FDIC, like NCUA, we insure accounts up to $250,000 per account. So if the bank closes, we make sure that you get paid. We like to say since we were founded in 1933, no one has lost any money as a result of bank failure. In addition to the insurance, we supervise banks. We insure about 5,600. We supervise about 4,000 banks. So we have bank examiners that go out and look at these banks to make sure they're strong and sound. And our third responsibility is we act as a receiver if a bank fails. So if a bank fails, we take over, well, we try to sell most of our assets to another bank, in which we can't sell, we take over. That makes us a little different from a lot of federal agencies because we do have some dealings with real estate. Real estate auctions, real estate appraisals, real estate marketing and sales, environmental inspections of real estate. So we do a lot of those things in real estate that a lot of other agencies don't do. Over the last few years, as the financial crisis has wound down, our real estate holdings have wound down too. And we were doing about $2 billion a year in contracting. Now it's down to about 600, which is probably normal. Back in the crisis, we were having 150 or so banks closed per year. The last 2 years we had 7 each year, and this year so far we haven't had any. So although we still have some real estate to get rid of, and we still have some relationship with the industry, it's not nearly as big as it was a few years ago. And as I was ready for the question, Desiree asked Sharron about the next codes. I said, wow, I was ready for that question. So I'll ask it myself. What about the next code? So in the past, real estate and related functions were 5, 6, 7 of our top 10. This last year, only 2. One was environmental inspection and one was related to real estate, and they were 9th and 10th. So that just shows you that our work in that area has decreased quite a bit.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Amelia Millar.
Hey, hello. What happens to mic problems? So
I'll borrow it. Can you hear me?
pass the
Okay,
mic
this is
around.
much better. Okay, hi. Hi, good afternoon. I'm Millie Ermalara. I'm with the City of Chicago at City Hall with the Department of Procurement Services. What our department does, we are the contracting authority for the City of Chicago and over 15 city departments. So we procure, we certify, we have 3 different branches as part of our department. We have the contract administration department that goes through the contract administration portion. We have our certification program group, and we also have our compliance group. And last year, I'll just kind of give a little bit of numbers as feedbacks. For minority MBEs, we spent in payments a total of about $265 million for MBE firms in 2017. And for women business enterprises, WBE certified firms in 2017, we spent about $63.2 million so far in total spend for last year. So the opportunity is definitely there to work locally with the city. We have a lot of opportunity. Aviation, O'Hare and Midway is going to be going through a huge expansion the next couple of years, so there'll be a lot of opportunity as far as demolition. I have a couple potential opportunities coming up that we can talk about, but insurance brokerage services are in there, real estate property management services, vacant building registration, and demolition. Those are just some examples of some potential upcoming contracting opportunities that we can go into a little further.
Thanks, Millie, and we will take the opportunity to go into detail a little bit more on our panel as to the opportunities and also how to do business with us. With permission from the panel, I'll start us off sharing a little bit more about the National Credit Union Administration. Our total annual spend is very similar to what Sharron described as chomp change in the last panel. So it's about $40 million annually. About 39% of that was spent on minority and women-owned businesses in 2017, and that was a record year for us. I will say we're not sitting on our laurels and sort of applauding and high-fiving that high spend. What we're realizing is every year, year over year, has its challenges, particularly, for example, if we operate under best value. So what that means is not just the cheapest cost, but the best value to us, the best service quality, as well as cost or considerations. And so with that, sometimes we find the best value is associated with securing or procuring a large contract. Unfortunately, what that does is minimize the additional spend. So our office, the Office of Minority and Women Inclusion, has to be very, very intentional in partnering with folks like in Mark's FRBC, which would be the procurement office, to ensure we are aware of what are the opportunities that are coming up and how can we support through the use of what we call market research. So I'd like to share a little bit, I think as many panelists have shared, which is some of the contract availabilities that we do have. I would say 25 million of that 40 million is spent on IT services, whether it's the actual products, equipment, procuring additional staff to support us on a temporary basis. We also have sort of a 3-year, as many organizations, lease agreement when it comes to the actual computer equipment that we utilize. So all of that is part of our IT spend. Subsequently to that, I would say the top spends would be, I would say hotels. You might think that sounds strange, but when we speak to the fact that our staff of, I think right now, approximately 1,200, is largely consistent of examiners who go out and examine these credit unions. Many are remote-based, but we have a lot of training and development. So we're securing hotels to convene meetings, collaborations, as well as training. The other, I would say, key areas would be contracting of services such as training and development, executive coaches, our various development programs are also staffed through contracts. And then I think lastly, accounting nationally, accounting and financial services. That's very important to us to ensure that we're auditing our own financial services. And of course, the insurance share fund is also a part of that. So that's just a little bit more about the types of procurement as Millie has shared. Mark, you want to share any more about the types of contracts out there?
Sure. You know, we're similar in terms of the things that we buy that Deb mentioned, but the Federal Reserve, we primarily, our biggest expenditures are on our facilities, maintaining our facilities. We have a general contractor. That's the bulk of where we spend our funds in terms of keeping our buildings renovated, and we also spend a great deal with law enforcement. We actually have our own law enforcement unit. We have a great deal of security because we house about, I don't know, I think it's more than $10 billion at any given time in our bank. Because we're the bank's bank, so if JP Morgan Chase calls us up and says they need a few $1 billion, we'll send the truck over and send it to them, the Brinks truck, and then then at the end of the day, if the bank doesn't want to house it, they'll send it back over to us and we'll have it secure. So if you ever have been to our facility, it's one of the safest places in Chicago. And one of the other, we have a lot of hardware, software types of things, and then we get into a lot of the professional development and executive coaching. We do have limited kind of real estate opportunities in terms of leasing. We have a large branch in Detroit, but a great deal of our facilities, again, it's like going through the airport to get into our building. So it's really not an easy place to try and lease space, but we have a few opportunities there, but very limited. But for the most part, it's within our construction of and maintaining our facilities.
As I mentioned earlier, next codes, residential property management, environmental inspection was on here, but most of it really is office administrative services and computer-related types of activities, IT type stuff. So that's our main areas. We do have, normal things like all agencies, facilities management, janitorial service, security, guard services. And again, in the bank closing area, we have things like asset management, investigations, financial closing processes, franchise marketing, and that type of thing.
Billy, we were pretty excited to hear that the City of Chicago has a number of possible opportunities. Can you speak to us about the process that one would take in terms of engaging?
Sure. The process of doing business with the City of Chicago. The process depends on what kind of, so there are different, we have 5 specific types of procurement that go through our department. They're considered small orders, which are under $100,000. We have competitive bids, which are over $100,000, RFPs, requests for proposals, RFQs, requests for qualifications, and JOC, which are job order contracts. I think specifically for this space or this conference, a lot of the business that you would be seeking would be under RFPs and RFQs, which would be requests for qualifications, requests for proposals. We always encourage everyone. We do put out what is called a buying plan. It is, you can find it on our website, which is www.cityofchicago.org/DPS. And when you get to that webpage, you'll see a little book that says buying plan. That buying plan gets updated every single quarter, and it's a 15-month forecast of upcoming contracting opportunities, not just for the City of Chicago, but for our other 12 government agencies that we were able to pull in and be part of this book, so that you as a community we were trying to be as transparent as possible. Those are some of our guiding principles: integrity, public trust in the law. So we want to try to be as transparent as possible with everyone by posting the current contracts online, making sure that we'll go into that a little bit further, but those are some things. We also offer classes online, our DPS workshops, which will guide you through an entire process, which can be very lengthy, on how to do business with the city.
Thank you. Vic, do you want to pick up in terms of how to do business with the FDIC?
FDIC is a little different from most federal agencies. We're an independent agency, and therefore we do not follow the FAR. We developed our own procedures, which you can see on our website if you care to look at it. But basically, how it works with FDIC, you have to be invited to participate. So we go out for a request for proposal. My office, which again is the OMWI office, is contacted by our acquisition services branch, and they say, we have this type of proposal that we're coming out with. Do you have any MWOBs, or minority women-owned businesses, we call them MWOBs, that could fit the bill and do this? And we'll supply them with a list of companies from our list, our internal list, which is called the contractor resource list, which if you want to do business with FDIC, you have to be on that list, in addition to being in SAM. So we provide companies' names to our acquisition services branch, and they send out the RFP. They don't take all of the names, they take a few, but it gets the MWOBs an opportunity to be included. We try to include at least 1/3, and usually it's more than that, MWOBs on every proposal that goes out. So it gets you in the ball game. Obviously, you still have to compete against the other companies that also are receiving the proposal, but it gets them MWOBs into the ball game. and it's worked pretty well for us. For years, we were doing about 25 to 35% of our business with MWOPs. We don't have set-asides. We don't have quotas. We don't care if you're small, medium, or large. Our mandate is just to do as much business as we can with minority and women-owned businesses. Within the last couple of years, as our spend has decreased, we've dropped to 19% last year and the year before. So we're trying to get that back up to around 30, and so far this year we're at 29.6%. And one other thing I'll mention too. Another thing that we do is different. When there is a technical evaluation panel, that is when we're looking at the proposals that have come in, a member of my staff sits on the technical evaluation panel as a voting member. And I don't think any other agency does that. So we actually have a person in the room sitting on the panel and voting, and their responsibility is to make sure that the MWOPs are basically treated fairly during the evaluation process.
And Mark, before you chat, I'd like to take a moment to kind of compare and contrast the way that we at NCUA do it as well as in comparison to FDIC. And just like FDIC, we do not follow the FAR. We like to talk that our process is a lot simpler than some of the other agencies, including FDIC. What we have is what we call a vendor registration form. That form is on our website. It's ncua.gov. If you'll go to for more information, you'll find a tab that's a scroll down tab, and there's a section where it says, I want to do business with NCUA. If you'll click on there is a vendor registration form. That is the only item that you'll need to complete. You don't necessarily have to enter the task of completing the information in SAM, but that takes about 5 minutes. It provides your contact information. And so to compare a little bit as to how we do the process, what we do is if there is a need, just like FDIC, we get that communication in our terminology, it's the procurement office. They notify us of the contract interest, and we identify through our market research MWOPs. We are in the business of supporting our MWOPs, minority and women-owned businesses, in our office. And so what we do is we go to that database where we would ask you to go ahead and register with us. We do our market research in various ways, including the database. We do also look at public websites or public sites such as SAM's, but it's not exclusive to SAM, is what I want to say. So most importantly, if you've got that vendor registration form out there, and we also have a contact for you. Being intimate and small, we don't have a large procurement office, nor do we have a large OMWI office, but we do have a supplier diversity manager. He reports directly into me, but what I found is he is not shy about giving out his contact information. So if you've got a pen or a pencil ready, I'll share with you his name. And actually, what you'll find is Miguel Polanco. That's M-I-G-U-E-L, Polanco, P as in Paul, O-L-A-N-C-O. And what you would do after registering through our vendor registration form, I would suggest that you send just a brief email to Miguel at mpolanco@ncua.gov. And again, that's his first initial, M, Polanco, P-O-L-A-N-C-O. There's no punctuation in between those two, at ncua.gov. Miguel typically suggests that you make a light touch with him about once a month, letting him know what services you provide and that you're out there, so that when we do have these opportunities, again, he's going to go through the vendor registration form, database that we have, you would be in there. And the way we sort of classify our sort of competitive bid process, if there is a need under $7,500, we are authorized to only have to request one bid as long as it's fair and it provides the specific service that we have. Between 75 and 100K, we're going to be asking for 3 competitive bids on such agreements. And then over 100K, it does become a little bit more formal, and we are asking for 10. The only exception I would say to that, I mentioned earlier, and the good news that I think both Vic and I are sharing is with the decline in liquidations, there is that decline in our real estate support services. But I mentioned earlier that we have an asset management assistance center in Austin, Texas. You may recall I said that. That particular center would buy services such as management services, real estate services, loan servicing, loan sale advisory. Again, very limited, but if you're interested in just putting together your capability statement and sharing it with Miguel at that particular email address that I supplied you with, he will also share that with AMAC in the event that there are opportunities. Although they may be limited, those opportunities that come available. So in conclusion there, again, the best way to ensure that you find the opportunities for us, because we do not post those, we don't include those in listings, is to utilize the registration through our NCUA.gov, and then I've given you a point of contact who is passionate and staying connected with you on a monthly basis if necessary to support you. Okay? So I'm going to turn it over to you, Mark.
Well, thank you. You know, in the Federal Reserve system, we are similar to the FDIC, and we don't. We bid everything out over $10,000, but we don't advertise our bid opportunities. We don't have any kind of goal or quota that we have to meet. What we do have internally, though, is a inclusion metric in which we are required for every competitive bid to include at least one minority and one woman-owned business on all of our competitive bids. So that's an internal metric that we report that up through our OMWI office. Actually, I do not report to OMWI, I report to our procurement office in the finance department, but we have a close tie with the OMWI director in terms of our reporting on an annual basis. We report to Congress all of our activities, and the best way to do business with us is, again, we don't follow the FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulations. We have our own requirements. But it's really, I'm your advocate, Supplier Diversity Program Manager. I'm your advocate within our business units, within our organization. Reach out to me, and I will keep you in mind as opportunities come up, and certainly stay in touch with me. And I think I have enough cards for people, but I'll give you my email address. It's Mark, that's M-A-R-K, .hands, H-A-N-D-S, at CHI.FRB.org. So mark.hands@CHI.FRB.org.
Well, we've been talking a lot at the federal level, but we're going to go back to Millie because you were promising you've got more information to share with us, right?
I do. So some of our resources, we do put our our bid ads are on in the newspaper, but we also have them under current bid opportunities on our webpage. We do have that buying plan that I talked about earlier, which is that book that tells you about upcoming contracting opportunities. That buying plan is more of a way for you to start preparing for what's coming up. So those are upcoming contracting opportunities. Once the contracting opportunities have been placed in the paper and they are advertised, then they would go on a bid opportunity list that we post every Monday on our website, on our webpage, which is www.cityofchicago.org/DPS. And you'll see an icon on there that is that says current bid opportunities. You click on that link, and every week that is the most up-to-date list. We also have what we call our DPS alerts. So that's how to become part of our listserv subscriber list. So you can also go to our website, click on the link that says DPS alerts. That adds you, fill it out. It's just your name, your email, very simple information, and you get added to our listserv. So what we do at the city, every Monday, we send what we call our DPS alert for the Department of Procurement Services. And that list is the current, that email or that alert includes the most recent bid opportunities that are out there, along with any other information we feel is valuable to you about events that are happening or other contracting opportunities, not just with our agency, but with the other 12 government agencies that we work with as well.
Can you hear me now? All right. Question that may be pertinent to the audience interest. Does any of our agencies have a forecasting approach to how they manage? Sounds like Millie's saying yes to that one.
The buying plan is our forecasting approach, because that is our forecast. That's our 15-month leadway forecast, and that was a behemoth of a project to kind of undertake as part of a city department or our procurement department, because we had to collaborate with all the other city departments and get their buy-in to provide that information on a quarterly basis. So it can be a very Very cumbersome, but very beneficial to the community because that's just another level of information for them to have to get ready to do business as well.
We do not publish a forecast.
We do not publish a forecast, but what we do on an annual basis is I sit down along with procurement and all our business units on an annual basis, and usually around what we try to do it around the budgeting season to see what kinds of opportunities are on the horizon, and that gives me the opportunity to, as I go out in the community and attend these national conferences, I have a sense of what we're looking for in the future. So that's how it's more of an internal forecasting that we have, but it's not something that we publish.
And I would respond on behalf of NCUA, very much like Mark and the FRBC. It is an internal driven conversation from Mark's counterpart, Miguel, with the procurement office to discuss that, but no formal posting or public forecasting publication. Now we're nearing the end, and we certainly hope you are hanging in there. Are you still out there? All right. Well, we're blinded by the light, so we always like to check in with you. One of the other things I mentioned is, in addition to sharing with you how to do business with us and what might be those opportunities, is we wanted to support you as a community when it comes to both growing and sustaining your business. So I'd like to kind of tap into our panel to talk about some of those opportunities out there. And Vic, I'm going to look to you to kind of talk with us about upcoming technical assistance opportunities out there.
Yeah, we have a joint technical assistance opportunity coming up. A joint meeting, several of the OMWIs are working together to host this technical assistance event in San Antonio, Texas on the 29th of August. If you'd like more information about it, I'll give you my card and you can email me, and I'll email you a copy of the flyer. Or you can go on our website and see a copy of the flyer. But it's basically a one-day event hosted by, as I said, several of the OMWIs, and it's going to be on smart contacts and smart contracts. One of the things we found out, particularly with MWAs, but a lot of the other majority companies too, that the proposal writing isn't necessarily up to par, and it hurts them in the evaluation process. So this technical assistance event, that's one of the things that we're looking to address at this event. It's free. All you got to do is get there. So if you're interested, if anyone's from Texas, or if you're going to be in Texas, or if you want to travel to Texas, this would be a good opportunity.
And I would further enforce, Victor, that according to Miguel, you've got quite sort of a national presence. It's not just folks who are residing in Texas.
Oh no, it's for anyone who can get there.
Yeah.
And we did it. We doing events in DC, and we wanted to get out in the regional area to give people, not necessarily in the DC area, but throughout the country, an opportunity to come to one of our technical assistance events. And that's why we're having it in San Antonio.
Now, a little insider information, Mark and I were once colleagues at the Federal Reserve Bank. So I know about Money Smart Week, but I'd like you to talk to our attendees a little bit about it.
Sure. What I did 5 years ago, when I joined the Federal Reserve about 8 years ago, and they've had a program that's been going on for probably 15 plus years called Money Smart Week. Money Smart Week is a program that focuses on financial literacy for individuals. So I took that concept and created Business Smart Week. And for the last 5 years, we created a program that focuses on giving business owners kind of the information, technical assistance, and the tools to better manage their business. This year, we hold this event in Detroit. In fact, we just finished up last week here in Chicago, but the week before in Detroit, we had a program that really focused on mentorship. And I think when Erica was talking about how veteran-owned businesses are looking for peer-to-peer mentors and things like that. And we found that many business owners, they're really looking for that. They're looking for mentorship. They want to be mentored in terms of trying to bridge some of those gaps in knowledge. And we focused on how to market your business on the Google platform, Google Analytics. We focused in in Chicago, we had cybersecurity was a topic, access to capital. One of the things we do is, as many of you may be aware, is the Dodd-Frank Act that many of the OMWI offices were established with. They focused on minority and women-owned businesses. One of the things that we've done at the Federal Reserve is we have expanded that. Not only are we including minority and women-owned businesses, but we're reaching out to veteran-owned businesses and to LGBTQ businesses. And one of the things, we had a veteran-owned matchmaker event it was July 19th, and we just had matchmakers with corporations. We had Stedman Graham actually spoke and talked about identity, leadership, and so. So it's really, that's what Business Smart Week is. That's what our technical assistance is all about, because we feel that's where we can make the biggest impact. And so we're 5 years strong with that program, and we're trying to get better and better every year.
Millie, I'm going to test this. Would you continue in terms of telling us some of the opportunities available or announcements of any upcoming events?
I'll share some of the, yes. So every year, the City of Chicago hosts 2 major events for the community to learn on how to do contracting with the city. Our first major event is usually around February, and it's called our Construction Summit. That's a little bit more specific on construction, but I can see that potentially being another opportunity. There's also the vendor fair, which is more broader, not just construction. That takes place every May or June. Our Construction Summit brings in about 700 attendees coming through, and we have tons of City of Chicago departments, other government agencies, other sister agencies, financial institutions who can help bring access to capital information. We have our assist agencies there who represent us in the local community on helping minority and small women-owned businesses kind of thrive, and they bring that feedback back to us. So those are 2 really important events that we have as a city. I also encourage you to learn more about our DPS has a bid guide. So over the last, I want to say 2 to 3 years, we've had a record number of ordinances and bid incentives go out through our Chief Procurement Officer. And instead of having them just on our webpage in different formats in different places, we put them all together in a book called a bid guide, bid guides and programs. So that's also on our website, and it's a really good way for you to see all the different incentives that we have that potentially you can participate and be a part of to use a credit when your bid comes in and make you a little bit more competitive. So there's a lot of things. If you'd like to see me after, I'll give you my card and I can share an email with links to the different items that we discussed today.
Thank you, Millie. Now we're going to wrap up, but because we've got a captured sort of think tank here, I'd like for each of our panelists to end with sharing with you just something, bit of advice that our attendees could use to stand out among the competition when procuring contracts with you. Mark, it sounds like you're ready to go.
Sure. I think one of the things that I encounter when I'm at conferences or the trade fairs is a lot of vendors that come up to us really don't understand what the Federal Reserve does. I would encourage you to do your research and really understand who we are and what we do in terms of, we're not a federal agency. We don't have a large spend. We're like any large commercial bank, and we just kind of do your research and your homework on us. I think, and the other thing is, as you're responding to any of our opportunities, make sure you're thorough with your responses and make sure you don't forget anything in your responses. But the number one thing is that I encounter is doing your research before you start talking to us and really understanding who we are as an organization.
I'd like to echo that about making sure that making sure that your proposals are well done, they follow the order, and they contain all the information that is needed. That's one issue, as I mentioned earlier, that we've run into. A second thing would be, I would say, be persistent. I'll give you my card, I'll give you my information, like Miguel and Mark here. You can contact me, or a member of my staff, and we're happy to talk with you at any time. And maybe one other third thing I would say, don't be afraid to be a subcontractor. At FDIC, a lot of people who have started as subcontractors to a bigger firm, once they show that they can do the job and been around for a while and get to know people, and then when they compete to be the prime, they have an inside track. So don't be afraid to start out as a subcontractor.
And Millie, what wise words do you have?
I encourage you to, if you're local and you know that there is a bid opportunity that you're interested in, that you see the buying plan, that you've learned potential bid incentives that might be able to be part of that, I encourage you to go to the pre-bid conferences. The city hosts pre-bid conferences before a bid actually before the bid submittals are received. That's an opportunity for you not to just see the competition that potentially could be bidding alongside you, but also a possibility for you to joint venture with someone in the room as well, and an opportunity for you to ask questions directly there that you might have. So those are some things that I always tell everyone, make sure you do that, make sure you go, make sure you're familiar with that. But definitely, that's what I would say.
Okay, well, I think we've ran out of time, so I'm going to turn things back over to Desiree for any closing thoughts and another comment.
Hey, thank you. What a great panel, right? The ideas is what we brought from the city of Chicago. Happens to every city. It might be different. Sometimes you can get contracts for less than $5,000 a month that you don't have to bid on. The Federal Reserve, you're here, you told them about the GSA schedule change. They just talked to Marlita, right? Yeah, Deborah, yeah. So the idea is that, again, you don't have to be the one doing the work. Just make sure you keep that in your book of business. And the other thing you're hearing about is that the connection in a relationship, that once you do a book of business them once, they all know each other and they all want to help you. So I've gone out to see Victor many times. He's come out and seen us, as you hear, 5 times already. But the idea is that pick up and call him. He doesn't bite. He loves women, just like just like everyone else. They want to see you succeed. They don't get paid extra money. They get valuated. My father used to be in charge of the SBIR for the Navy, for procuring contracts. And he got bonus points for looking how good because where you were in the process. Not that they made extra money because they're all on a schedule on how they get paid. But the idea is they feel good to make you look good, right? And they can only say this how many hours in the day? Desiree, just talk to that person. At what point can I talk to every individual person the same thing? That's hence the purpose of the conference is we need every one of you to be a reciprocal of what you heard today, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna move them over to the other side so you can be able to talk to them for another 40 minutes because they're gonna be part of the round table. You got 6 people over there already, part of the round table, and then we're gonna break, and then we go to the gala. So for those who are going to the gala, it starts at 6:30, ends at 10. We have 30 incredible women who get awards. It is a full-on drinks, dinner, dancing, live band coming in. All gussied up, have a new step and repeat. We have a silent auction. There are 45 purses over there that I hauled in from California. They range from $200 retail to $4,000 retail. I think the cheapest bid is $60 and goes up to $1,600, I believe. 50% of all the proceeds will go to the nonprofit to continue the work that we're doing to bring events like this to the table. Because without the sponsorship and support of every one of you, things like this doesn't happen. So thank you all, and next door, look at the purses, think about it, be good, because I don't want to haul them back. And then we'll see you tonight at 6:30. So thank you all.